My home state is Florida, but at the time I was at Savannah, Georgia, doing electric arc welding on Liberty ships for Southeastern Shipbuilding Corporation in Savannah, because I had tried to get in the military earlier and they wouldn't take me. I was too young. I was 16. And they said, no, you have to be 18. So I said, well, I want to serve. And they said, well, you go to NYA. What's that? And they said, National Youth Administration, where we train teenagers and I was still in school, that learn a trade that helps the war effort for the assistance in helping to build ships, planes, tanks, or whatever it might be that they need. So I said, okay. So I took the training, learned to do electric arc welding. Frankly, I was able to do it quite well. And then when I turned 18, yes, I did go to the Marine Corps recruiting office in Savannah, Georgia. They took me in and said, you're going to Parris Island. I said, fine, along, with several others. And we went down there. We had our orders to report, and which we did, Parris Island, South Carolina. And we went in there, I think it was at night, and they said, we need to see your orders. And we showed it to them, and they said, you can't come in. We said, wait a minute. We have orders to go through boot camp here in Parris Island, South Carolina. They said no. Well, what happened with this? There was a communicable disease that I'm not sure what it was at that time, and Parris Island, this was in 1943, March, that the whole island was put under quarantine. No one could go in or out. And they said, you are going to get on a train in Atlanta, Georgia, and go to San Diego, California, and go through boot camp there at Marine Corps Recruit Depot. Well, that was quite a shift, but we were all, Southern boys, Georgia, Alabama. So we got on the train, we went through San Diego, California, saw the country, and by all means we went through boot camp. I won't go into details, rifle range and all that. We got our Eagle Globe and Anchor and became graduates of boot camp, beginning Marines, if you will. And we were very proud of that. And we went to a tent weight assignment, and while we're in there, somebody said, well, you say you went through boot camp here at San Diego? Yes. And I said, I'm a Marine. They said, no, you're not. Well, those are fighting words. Well, I said, what do you mean? I said, it's my Eagle, Globe, and Anchor. And they said, no, you're a Hollywood Marine. I have never, in all these years, that was 77 years ago, been able to live that down.
Oh my gosh.
I can't. They will not let me live that down because I went through San Diego, not Parris Island. I went to Camp Pendleton.
Camp Pendleton.
Yes, outside of San Diego, California, and took infantry training, learned how to work with tanks, logistics, fire different weapons, close order drill, and then from there they sent us to the big island of Hawaii. Well, we didn't stay there very long. They said, no, I was in the 26th Marines of the 5th Marine Division. They said, no, you're going to the island of Guam. They need you. They're fighting the Japanese there. So we said, oh, well, you follow orders. We boarded ship, now just my regiment, not the whole 5th Marine Division. And we got to Guam, and they said, well, you're floating reserve. This campaign is going so well, and it was, that we don't need you, but stay around. We did for a few days, and they said, no, we don't need you. For sure, go back to Hawaii. Well, and we took more training. We were between two volcanoes, Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa. Maybe you've been there.
I have. I was stationed in Hawaii.
You have? A big island.
I was on Oahu.
Oahu, yeah,
Camp
Honolulu.
Smith.
Oahu, Maui, and Hawaii, the big island. And we took additional training there, and then we got the word, we're going to go aboard ship at Hilo, which is a harbor there on the big island of Hawaii. And we got on tiny banana trains. I looked over the side, 300 or 400 feet down. Whoa. Well, I don't know if we're going to make it or not. People were very generous. They were throwing mangoes and fruit to us as the train went by, because they knew we were going into combat. And of course, we finally got to Hilo, our harbor, and they said, you can't go aboard ship. I said, wait a minute, what do you mean? We're going to, we didn't know where. They called it Island X. He said, we're going to Island X. They said, no, you're not. You go up on that hill up there and you sit there until we order you off of it. Well, you follow orders. What had happened was saboteurs had gotten aboard our ship and put matchboxes big like this with sandpaper around it and taped some matches, the old kind where you strike them, so that when they were all over the ship, when the ship would rock and roll, the match would hit the sandpaper and start a fire aboard the ship. Well, we didn't know this till later. We wondered, why are we on this hill? Finally, we got the okay and went aboard ship, and we headed for Pearl Harbor. Had a few days of liberty, and they said, you're going out to an island, Island X. We didn't know, well, what's that? And we were being prepared for the landing on Iwo Jima, February 19th, 1945. And we had to bring in what they called Marston matting to lay down, which is a large steel sheet or iron sheet, perforated, that they used to build airfields. And that they put down, and then our vehicles could go forward. Only we had to send engineers in with bayonets to probe the sand at an angle to locate mines that were set in there to blow us up, of course. I know I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but yes, we landed. I did not go in on the first wave. I was with the 26th Marines, 5th Marine Division, and we went in the afternoon. We had casualties were not heavy with the first few waves, but General Karabachi had registered all of their mortars, artillery, to wait for his command, and when the beach became congested and full of troops and tanks and jeeps and trucks, just laying there churning, trying to get through that loose sand of Iwo Jima, he opened fire. And it was a slaughter. It was awful. The casualties were tremendous. And we went in after that. Now our mission, I'm talking about my regiment, the 26th Marines, was to cut across the island at the base of Mount Suribachi, which was a 550-foot high volcano, semi-dormant, that dominated the whole island. We cut across the 700 yards at the base of Mount Suribachi, and we pivoted to the right because our mission was to go up by Motoyama number 1, which was the Japanese airfield, and helped take that with the 4th Marine Division. and then go up towards the north end of the island. The 28th Marines, and of course this is where history becomes very focused on the flag raising. They went up Mount Suribachi, of course, on the 23rd of February and raised 2 flags. And they raised the first one and we went ecstatic. We were all over the island, you know, not the whole island, but part of it. And we saw that flag flying. It brought tears to my eyes. I fired my rifle in the air. The ships were tooting their horns. They were blowing whistles. They were clanging bells. Guys were throwing hand grenades, whatever. We knew then that the fire coming down on us from Mount Suribachi was over. We had that Mount Suribachi in our grasp.
That must have been an elating moment.
I still feel emotions about it. I can't help it. And of course, then later, Joe Rosenthal from the Associated Press came up, and at the right time, the right moment, he snapped the famous iconic picture, which we all know and see, probably around here somewhere. It's all over the world. So we had that take place, but the first flag was our emotional response, because that was, but second, and sure, we liked it, but it wasn't as much as the first flag. One of the things that dominates my thoughts about Korea is the bitter cold. I was a Florida cracker. I like to froze to death, but it was totally different in that we didn't have the intensity combat in Korea. We had a lot of roadblocks, we had patrol activities, we had snipers, but the fire was nothing compared to Iwo Jima, where we were under heavy fire. It was very mountainous in Korea, very cold, as I said. And I had my faithful companion, the M1 Garand rifle, which I loved. And we fought a different kind of war in that it wasn't, in the group that I was with, the 1st Marine Division, Dog Company, 7th Marines, we had sporadic fire at times, but nothing where it was a massive mortars and artillery coming in on us, and we were wondering where could we get some shelter protection. But we had a controversy that I'm sure you're aware of, where President Truman felt he had to relieve General MacArthur, and General Matthew Ridgway came in and started what we call Operation Killer up the middle of Korea, and we were part of that for a short while. Anyhow, I was thankful. I had a Purple Heart, I had dependents, I had World War II experience, and they said, you have enough points to get out. Do you want to get out? I said, yes, I do. And so I only took I was a year in Korea, about a year. And from there I came on back because I had recovered, of course, from my wounds that I had suffered in a battle for Iwo Jima.
Now I understand you took shrapnel in your stomach
Yes.
area, is that correct?
That's correct. In fact, part of my belt buckle went in with it.
Oh.
Yeah. And the doctor said, yeah, we're gonna, they cut me open aboard a hospital ship off of Iwo Jima, and they said, we're gonna send you to Guam. And they said, no, you're going aboard a airplane and go to Pearl Harbor. Well, the airplane of C-54 had 4 engines, luckily, because on the way over the Pacific Ocean, 2 engines went out. Fortunately, we made it on 2 engines, luckily, to Johnston Island, which is about 1,000 miles off of Pearl Harbor. And they repaired the plane, and then we went on in. And then, of course, I went from there to Pearl Harbor, and they said, no, we're going to send you to the States to be operated on. I ended up at Pensacola, Florida. And I thought, sure, well, they're going to take all that stuff out of me. And they said, no, we're not. I said, doctor, I've got parts of a belt. No. He said, it'll travel. It isn't going to hurt you. It's in your right side. They said, we're going to leave it in because we don't want you to have to go through another operation. We're going to send you home. Served, I hope, well, and certainly was proud to still be a Marine.
Well, we're proud of you. And then you have the Iwo Jima,
Yes.
of the iconic raising of the flag.
And
then the red patch here on your left side on your breast pocket with the go through those three there. Of course, we know the Marine Corps symbol.
Of course, obviously the Marine emblem. This, it's a Purple Heart.
So you were awarded the Purple Heart for
Yes.
Iwo Jima.
Well, not at Iwo Jima. There was a big mix-up at Pearl Harbor. I was on a hospital bed, and somehow they came around and I fell through the crack, and I did not get awarded my Purple Heart for wounds received on Iwo Jima until 52 years later.
Wow.
And there was an article written in our local paper, the Gainesville Sun, about that. I lived in a place you might have heard of called Coral Gables, Florida, outside of Miami. And right in Coral Gables, Florida was the University of Miami. So I went there and took my bachelor's degree and master's degree, and I ended up wanting to become a teacher. So I took the master's in majoring in history and education, and went into teaching there in Coral Gables at local schools, Coral Gables Senior High School, Ponce de Leon Junior High School in those days. Now it's middle school. And while I was there, I worked with interns, future teachers from colleges all over Florida, FSU, Florida, University of Miami. And through that, I got an invite to come up here to Gainesville and apply for a teaching job at the University of Florida, which I did. And I came in '68 and have been here. I taught for 20 years. I retired in '88 and then have been active in the community, particularly with veteran groups, you know, the American Legion, VFW, you name it, D-Day group, and all of them, disabled American veterans, a group called Iwo Trio, which I hope you can attend someday, and very active. You know, I write articles, and that's a privilege, and I try to maintain a lot of active work with veteran groups wherever I am, and travel around and enjoy very much giving talks. Later this month I have to give a talk at Santa Fe High School on military history. So that's what I do, Michelle, is try to, if you will, bring the attention of our youth to our heritage and the sacrifices that were made to give them the freedom they have today. And they do have a lot of freedom that we didn't have when I was their age years ago, because we just come out of a depression and then we went into a war. But it was, it's something that I considered a great, great privilege to be able to go to these groups and tell them about what their grandfathers primarily went through so that they could have the liberty and freedom that they have today. What a privilege the good Lord has given me to do this.